Good morning and welcome to Daily Focus. I trust that you had a great Sunday yesterday and a great Mother's Day. And let me just say a happy Mother's Day to all the moms that watch. And a little belated Mother's Day, but so thankful for moms and God's design. It's an amazing, marvelous design for sure. And those that are faithful to that calling and role have incredible reward for their labor, and God sees to it. And I trust that each mom has been thoroughly honored, and that their heart is flowing with gratitude today for the opportunity for us to honor them. All right. Well, I'm going to skip Acts 22 only because Acts 22 is kind of a rehearsal of Acts 9. It's just Paul's testimony reiterated from Paul's mouth to the Roman leadership, and opportunity for him to testify of God's program and God's call in his life. And I encouraged us last Thursday to make sure that we are using our testimony effectively in sharing the gospel and in teaching people truth. Well, when we get to chapter 23, we find out actually the very end of chapter 22, we find that there is really no tolerance for truth among people that have an agenda. People that have a private agenda, or they have a secret agenda, or they want something that they are trying to hide the real truth, the real agenda. They try to hide that and promote it as something other than what it is, kind of like the COVID problem, the coronavirus hoax. I'm not saying that the virus is a hoax. I'm not saying that the virus is not dangerous in and of itself, but the way that it has been hijacked and manipulated in order for government control and political takeover is really concerning to me. And just the way they have cooked the numbers and cooked the books and manipulated the outcome to create fear is just disturbing to me. And certainly when the German leaders that had killed so many in Germany back in the Holocaust, when they were put on trial and asked if they had indeed manipulated people into thinking something that was not true, the individuals who did it on stand, on trial, under oath, simply said it wasn't hard to control people. All we had to do was get them to fear. And so we're almost seeing that played out in our culture today, and it's a sad thing that people lack the discernment to trust the Lord, to do what is proper and right, to mitigate risks, and to be personally responsible for your own family, your own condition personally, and doing the right thing. But instead, we have this all-out attack on our culture and society for a government takeover of control. And we see that, and it's really not up for debate anymore. It's pretty obvious at this point what really took place, especially in certain states like Michigan. But when we look at the text here, it's interesting that when people hate truth, it's because they have an agenda. And so the enemy to an agenda is the fact that truth comes out. So people have to do everything they can to suppress truth, to keep truth from coming out. And there's really no end that people will go through in order to protect themselves from the truth coming out when they've had a selfish motive. And I think some of that's going to remain to be seen in our culture today. And it will be played out as the truth does come out, specifically in how some of these governors manipulated their states for their own control and are responsible for many, many deaths, and certainly the manipulation of data. But we'll trust the Lord for all of that. Paul, unfortunately, is being under attack because of the truth of the gospel, because of the truth of God's program. And so here Paul is simply doing what God called him to do. He's simply living out what he said was a reality in his testimony in chapter 22. And the Jews have no tolerance for it. And the reason is because they wanted their own agenda. They did not want truth to come out. They had to do everything in their power to stop Paul from giving the truth, because after all, the truth was setting many, many, many Jewish people and Gentile people free from the bondage of their sin, was giving them new life in Christ. And the Jews who were dead in trespasses and sins and using a religious system in order to pad their own pockets and to be able to create their own level of control, did not want truth out. And so we find that Paul stands trial, and he brilliantly takes the Pharisees and Sadducees, who are united in one cause, and that is to take him out. He realizes that we have two distinct groups that do not agree, and so he brings up what they don't agree on, and that is the resurrection of Christ from the dead, or the resurrection, not of Christ. They rejected him. The resurrection at the end of saints, and the Pharisees believed it. The Sadducees did not. The Pharisees believed in angels, but the Sadducees did not. And so here all of a sudden, they begin to bicker back and forth, as Paul in verse 6 says, "But when Paul perceived that the one part were Sadducees and the other part Pharisees, he cried out in the council, 'Men and brethren, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. Of the hope and resurrection of the dead, I am called in question.' And when he had so said, there arose a dissension between the Pharisees and Sadducees, and the multitude was divided." Paul brilliantly brought in a statement. I think we can probably do that today in our political realms with the liberal left compared to those that are just less conservative, or just want a different president. They want a different agenda or platform. But the liberal left is at a totally different level of control and Marxist takeover. And I think sometimes it's wise to be able to find those lines of that you can create a disturbance amongst those that really do not want what is best for America. Well, Paul modeled that for us. That's just a sidelight. But in verse number 12, they so hated Paul because he spoke truth that verse 12 says, "And when it was day, certain of the Jews banded together and bound themselves under a curse, saying that they would neither eat nor drink till they had killed Paul." In other words, here's 40 guys that get together and they make a pact. They make a oath with each other under the penalty of death if you tried to get out of this. What would happen is they were going to band together for one common cause, and that was to silence the truth coming out of Paul by killing him. And so God intervenes, obviously, and his nephew overhears the plot, and he comes and he reveals that to the chief captain. And then in verse 22, so the chief captain let the young man depart and charged him, "See that thou tell no man that thou hast showed these things to me." And he called unto him 2 centurions, saying, "Make ready 200 soldiers to go to Caesarea, and a horseman 70 or 70 soldiers on horses, and spearmen 200 at the 3rd hour of the night." So here they are at midnight, getting ready to take off, and he provided them beasts that they may set Paul on and bring him safe unto Felix the governor. So here's Paul on his way to Caesarea for protection from these men who had made an oath to kill him, and God delivered him. And we are thankful that truth does still reign. And we don't have to be afraid of truth. We don't have to be afraid of those who hate truth. We simply have to trust the Lord who gave us truth, and to be faithful to declare the truth and unashamed of the truth, and to continue to broadcast truth and to live by truth. And when we do those things, we don't have to fear what man can do unto us. We can trust the Lord with all of our heart, lean not unto our own understanding, but in all our ways acknowledge him, and he will direct our paths. So we're so thankful that we have a God who is a God of truth. He's entrusted that truth to us. We are to deliver it to other people in the same condition we got it, so that that truth can continue to bring forth fruit and change lives for God's glory. And so, are there people who hate truth? There is. There always will be. But we can stand firm upon it and declare it unashamedly to all that will listen. May God bless you. I'll look forward